Hello, everybody. My name is Ruth O'Wades, and it's my pleasure to make the introductions today from my home in sunny San Francisco. You can see the Golden Gate Bridge behind me. I love the virtual backgrounds on Zoom. I want to begin by thanking Steve and Ilene Berger for their generous sponsorship of this special Technion Visiting Fellows program that we all really enjoy. Unfortunately, this time it's just virtual, but we're hoping next time we will get to see the students in person. At the conclusion of the students portion of the program, my colleague David Marcus will moderate the Q&A session. David is a prominent attorney and an active leader in the Los Angeles ATS chapter, and he serves as the incoming president. And David, would you like to just say hello, shalom, something?
Shalom, havarim, and thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, David. Personally, I've been involved with the Technion ever since I met our former president, Peretz Lavi, on the Technion campus in 2013. He and the Institute so impressed me at the time that I asked him, how could I be helpful? And from there, fast forward, I'm proud to now serve on the Board of Governors and on the Bay Area Board of Directors, which gives me a great deal of satisfaction. The Technion was founded in 1912, 36 years before the State of Israel. It's really important to think about that. It was where young immigrants were trained in skills that the founders knew were needed to build their new country. Many historians over the years believe that Israel itself would not exist if not for those early years of the Technion. That's how crucial the Technion is to the state of Israel and to all of us. And so from those early years, those early dramatic years, let's now jump to the present. And it's my pleasure to introduce our two student guests. Hila Rubenstein studied Arabic in high school, along with chemistry and film. So it's no surprise that when she joined the Army, her knowledge of Arabic moved her directly into the elite intelligence unit, 8200. Most of us here don't know the details, Hila, but we know about 8200. Hila is eloquent about how challenging advanced chemistry was for her, which I totally understand, but her tenacity is evident. And she is very candid about her first 2 years at the Technion, describing them as excruciating. Yeah. Nevertheless, she persevered, earning her bachelor and master's degrees, and is now working on her PhD. Hila's focus is on air quality in the environment. And especially meaningful today is Hila's appreciation of ATS and the generous ATS scholarship that has made her studies possible. Separately, on a personal note, she is waiting impatiently for the end of the pandemic when she and her fiance can be married. We will be there with you in spirit, Hila. Our second student is Alon Romano, and he is returning to his roots with this visit to California. Unfortunately virtual, because we would have loved to see you in person. San Francisco was Alon's home and
Ruth, you're muted.
let me give Alon's introduction so it can be heard. I hope you heard the beginning, but anyway, So Alon lived in San Francisco until he was 10 years old, when he and his family returned to Israel. I am curious to learn, and I will be there in the Q&A, Alon, what brought him and his parents to the Bay Area in the first place. And we're sorry that you're not here anymore, but we're glad you're at the Technion. Alon completed his schooling in Israel, and like all young Israelis, joined the military, serving in the intelligence corps for 7 years. He became an officer and earned plaudits for his creativity. After the army, he entered the Technion, where he earned his bachelor's and master's degrees, and is now working toward his Ph.D., all in the field of biotech and food engineering. Alon is married and has, in his words, 3 adorable children. So with that, I'm going to ask Hila to please begin.
Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for this nice introduction. So my name is Hila. I was born and raised in Israel. I'm 30 years old, and I'm now in my first year as a PhD student in the Faculty of Chemistry in the Technion. So my journey to the Technion is a story about determination and overcoming my insecurities of how science and technology and chemistry and mathematics, I never felt like those were my strong suit. So when I was in high school, I majored in chemistry, but mostly because I really loved my chemistry teacher and I wanted to continue and study with her. I also majored in Arabic, in the Arabic language, and in film and media. So those are, completely different subjects that I could have chosen for my career. And I cannot say that I was oriented to science my whole life or from a young age. And the truth is that I wasn't very good at chemistry in high school. And I had to work very hard to get good grades. So by the time I graduated from high school, I actually ended up really loving chemistry because I worked so hard to get good grades that I really went in deep with the subject and I found it very fascinating. And I developed this dream that I am going to be a chemist, a scientist, a researcher. I'm going to win the Nobel Prize. So after I graduated from high school, I thought that after the army, I will study chemistry. But still, I was a bit insecure about it because it was difficult in high school. So I thought it's going to be even more difficult in my degrees. So I wasn't sure that I'll be able to do it. So I thought, okay, I'll think about it after the army. And then I joined the army and I served in the intelligence corps, unit 8200. And my job in the army was very technological. I was surprised on how technological it was. And I was even more surprised that I really enjoyed it and that I was very good at my job. And I participated in some operations and people wanted to hear my opinions and people took my advice. And those were very important people. Those were commanders. And I felt like I have an impact. I have a value to bring. I even won an excellence award for my service. So I feel like in the army is when I started to gain confidence that I can do whatever I want as long as I'm determined, as long as I work hard. And even if I'm afraid of something and I think something will be too difficult for me, it's definitely not a reason to not even try. So after I completed my army service, I decided that I will enroll to the Technion to do a bachelor's degree in chemistry. I chose to study in the Technion because I thought that this is the most difficult and demanding schools for higher education in Israel. And I wanted to challenge myself and I wanted to get the best education that I can get. So I enrolled to the Technion, and as I expected, The first 2 years of my bachelor's degree were very difficult. They were very hard for me. I barely made it. And I think that only in the last year of my bachelor's degree that things started to click for me, and that I really started to enjoy the research aspect of what I was doing. And then I finished my bachelor's, and I felt like I wanted to know more. I really loved research. I wanted to develop this. So I wanted to enroll to grad school. But the problem was that my grades were not good enough to be accepted to grad school. And I had to do an interview with the academic committee of my faculty, and basically to convince them that I am determined, I'm serious about this, and this is my dream. And I think I guess that worked because they gave me an amazing opportunity to enroll to grad school despite my grades. And I'm very thankful for that, because since then I've done my master's and now I'm in my PhD. So I've done all my degrees in chemistry in the Technion, and I'm extremely happy about what I'm doing every day. And I want to tell you a little bit about my research. So I'm working on 2 projects. The first one, well, I haven't started it yet. I'm going to start it, I guess, in a few weeks from now, as soon as possible. This will be the main project for the rest of my PhD. And it's about, we're trying to develop a new method to monitor air quality, to find pollution or low concentration of contaminants in the air. And we are trying to do this directly measuring from the air without doing any chemical processing on the air. And I'm very excited to start this project because I think it's going to be very interesting to learn about environment issues and how maybe I can help and solve some problems that we have today. And the other project I can talk a little bit more about because I've started this in my master's. We are developing a method to do imaging and chemical analysis through surfaces that we cannot see through. For example, like the skin on our body. So imagine like an MRI machine or a CT or an X-ray that images the inside of our body, and at the same time performing chemical analysis. So maybe like a biopsy, just not invasive. And this technology can be implemented on many other fields. For example, security, to find maybe hidden explosives, or also in food safety or food quality, to monitor fruit and vegetables through their peel. So during my master's, I did the proof of concept for this technology. And I used a lot of models that I've built and created in my lab. And now in my PhD, we're doing the transition from models to real life biological samples. For example, apples, if we want to measure apples. And when you do these transitions from models to real samples, the complexity level rise tremendously. So the main challenge now is to do the correct adaptation to this new situation of real samples. So this is basically what I'm working on right now. And I also want to share with you that I received a fellowship from the ATS. And I want to share with you how this fellowship has been a blessing in my life, and how basically the fellowship and the Technion support helped me in a very hard time in my life where I was about to drop out of school. So during my master's, during the last year, my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and she was sick for about a year. Unfortunately, she passed away a year and a half ago. And during this last year, I wasn't very present in the Technion. And the last year of your master's is very stressful because you need to do as many experiments as you can, gather all the results, write the papers, submit all the forms. It's very stressful and you need to do a lot of things. And I wasn't very present in the Technion and I didn't do all those things. And I was about to lose my degree, to lose my fellowship, and I was about to drop out of school. So at the end, I went to the faculty, to the secretary for help. And immediately, without any questions asked, she just went to the dean. She talked to my advisor, the secretary, and they all decided with me that they will extend everything for me and give me a few more months to finish everything, to focus on my research and to wrap my degree. And the most important thing is that they also extended my fellowship for these few extra months. And this was very important to me because that allowed me to focus solely on my research, on finish everything up without being concerned about finance on top of all of the other things that I had going on during that time. So I'm very grateful that I can be here and share this with you, how this fellowship basically, I don't know where I would be today if it wasn't for that. So, okay, I want to move on to another thing, a different thing. I want to share with you some pictures from my life, okay? So I'll just share the screen right now. Okay. Okay. So on the right here, you can see Tal. This is my fiance. We're living together. As Ruth said in the introduction, we are waiting for the pandemic to be over so we can finally get married. We already had to postpone our wedding twice now because of all the quarantines we had. So right now we are waiting it out in the meantime. And on the left, these are my parents and me at graduation from the bachelor's degree and the Technion. This was an amazing day. It was so emotional. They were so proud of me because it was quite a ride to get to this day. And it was such a very happy day. And I'm so happy that I could share this with my mom. This view that you see here is from the Golan Heights. This mountain here that you see is where I served in the military. This is the view I would wake up to every day. It's amazing. I think the Golan Heights is one of the most beautiful places in Israel. So I warmly advise you, if you ever visit Israel, first come to the Technion and visit me, and I will show you around campus and I will show you the lab and we'll have a lot of fun. And next, go and travel in the Golan Heights because it's just beautiful, especially during the winter time. These pictures that you see here are from my lab. So on the left picture is my laser that I'm working on. It's a very unique laser. This is our energy source. It's very big. It takes up almost the entire room and it's very spatial. And in the middle picture is the table where I set up all of my experiments. I built my setups and I can customize my setups for my experiments, for my needs every day. And on the left is me in the lab with a mask. This is the famous N95 mask. This was taken before COVID-19. So this is before masks became mainstream. And I saw this picture and I thought it's funny because little did I know when I took this picture that this is going to be our normal right now. So that's it. I'll stop sharing. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here and share with you my story. And thank you very much for listening.
So
now, Alon.
Hi, Ilene. Your story is so inspiring. It's the second time that I heard your story, but it's still very inspiring. First of all, I want to say that I'm very happy and honored to talk to you today. My name is Alon Romano. I'm 34 years old. I'm currently a PhD student in my last year in the Faculty of Biotechnology and Food Engineering. I'm married to Michal. She's also a Technion graduate. She studied computer science. And we have 3 children, ages 6, 4.5, and 2.5. They were all brought to life during my studies. So it's something that I'm very happy, and of course it was very hard to be a student and also to be a father. I was born here in Israel, but when I was 2 years old, my family and I moved to the United States. So I attended a Jewish school, the Hebrew Academy. And when I was 9 years old, we returned to Israel, to the city of Rosh Hain. It's 15 minutes from Tel Aviv. And generally, when I grew up, I was a very average student. I was a troublemaker. School was not my main priority. Mostly girls and friends and soccer. But 2 things really changed my point of view. The first thing that my parents got divorced and my father left us. I didn't see him for 20 years now. And my mother got very ill. So my big brother and me were responsible for the whole family. I have 2 younger brothers. So that really made me understand that if I don't take control of my life and my future and my education, no one will, because at that point I understood that I'm not a child anymore. I'm more like a parent. And after that, I think I was a better student. And I graduated school with very good grades. But till then, I was very, very bad. And the second event that really changed my life is delegation to Poland. So I don't know if you know, but here in Israel, in most of the high schools, some of the students go to and visit Poland. And they go to the concentration camps, to Auschwitz and Treblinka and Majdanek, and to the remainings of the Warsaw ghetto. And for me, it's something that I remember every day. It really changed me and the way I think about my country and my heritage. And it made me a lot more patriot. So I knew that I wanted to contribute the best I could to my state and to the army. And I was 16 or 17, something like that. And my dream was to be a combat soldier. I even passed a few tests, and I was supposed to be a combat soldier in an elite force. But unfortunately, I had a health issue, and I was recruited to the intelligence force. So first, because of my family situation, I was recruited to the human resource of the intelligence force in Tel Aviv. So that way I could be every day with my mother and my siblings. And it was quite a job. You know, you come at 8, you go at 5. But at 2006, there was the Second Lebanon War. And a good friend of mine was killed in Lebanon. And that also made me change my point of view. I said, once the war was over, I told my my officer that I wanted to do more. I can't do 8 to 5. I need to contribute more. And my dream was to be in the Northern Command. So the Northern Command was my dream, and it took half a year, but at the end, I moved to the Northern Command, to the intelligence force over there. And overall, I was 7 years in the Army, most of the time in the Northern Command. I was also sent to an officer course, and I really had great time in the Northern Command, in the intelligence force. I did a lot of important and crazy stuff. So basically, what I did, I was an intelligence researcher. That means that you get different pieces of information from different sources, and you try to take all these bits and pieces and try to understand the big picture. And you really help. I really helped, or I think that I really helped the Army or the Northern Command in the time that I was there. And actually, I thought of a military career, but I always had a dream that I wanted to go to and be a student in the Technion. I loved biology, I loved chemistry, and after 7 years, I thought that it was time to be a student in the Technion. The only problem was I wasn't sure I had enough money. So in the time that I was in the military, I received money, but most of the money went to support my family. And I didn't know if I could go through 4 years of intensive studying without money. But I took my chances, and I started my first degree in the Faculty of Biotechnology and Food Engineering. And I was very, very lucky to receive a scholarship from a philanthropist named Mr. Martin Moschel. And owing to his scholarship, I really could go through the 4 intensive years of studying. And I graduated, and I proceeded to my second degree. So my second degree was also in the Faculty of Biotechnology and Food Engineering. Mostly what I did is in the biotechnology field. We tried to find new enzymes that can produce biofuels. And after 2 years, I understood that I wanted to try the food field. And I started my PhDs in the laboratory of Professor Uri Lesmes. And I'm currently in my last year, so I'll talk about my research. So mainly what the laboratory does is food chemistry, and try to understand how food is digested in the human tract. We try to mimic it by different bioreactors and see how food is digested and the digestive fate. So specifically what I do is I take different nutraceuticals, food nutraceuticals, and encapsulate them in protein carriers. So one of the nutraceuticals that I'm dealing with is capsaicin. Capsaicin is the active ingredient in chili peppers. And the problem with capsaicin is that it's very, very, very pungent. But it has different health benefits. There's a lot of studies that say that it has activity against cancer and against obesity. So what we do is we try to encapsulate it in different protein carriers systems, and that way you mask its pungency. And on the other hand, you make it a lot more bioaccessible and bioavailable in the human gut. So that's what I do. And I'm currently in my last year of my PhD studies. So I'm started to think what I want to do when I grow up. So I think the biggest dream of mine is opening up my own startup in the food tech or biotech. But I still have 1 year to think about it. So in addition to being a PhD student, I'm also a TA, and I assist in two different courses. And in my faculty, in the Faculty of Biotechnology and Food Engineering, there's a building that we call, it's called a pilot. So it's like a little industry who has, and it has all the big machinery like industries, and students that go through 3 years of studying, they're regular to analytic labs, and everything is so sterile and little. And then at the 4th year, they come to this big industry, and we show them how things are done outside. And one of the things that I love to do is that we prepare beer, or the students prepare beer. And we took it to a level that is really the best. So at the start of the course, we give them a catalog with different types of beers, and they need to prepare beers that are in a specific type that they choose. And at the end, there's different taste panels from around Israel who taste their beers. And once the course is over, so we have a big festival with sausages and beers and music, and the students can actually drink the beer that they prepare. So that's a lot of fun. And I'll also show a few pictures of, I'll share my screen. One second. Oh, great. So here's my family. So my wife, Michal, I met her in the army. And we have 3 children. They're all named after Israeli common trees. And the biggest one is Shaked. She's 6-year-old, and the littlest one is Dolev. He's 2.5 years old. So in addition to being a PhD student, I'm an active father. Since I didn't have a father, or most of my life I didn't have a father, I think that for me it's even more important than a career. I think that every kid needs 2 parents that will grow them up and be for them. And although it's very tough sometimes, I love it. So here are pictures from my military service. Here you can see I'm very glad because I received 2 years ago the rank of major in reserve duty. So ever since I was started Technion, I go maybe 15 to 30 days a year to reserve duty. And it's a lot of fun. I love it. But sometimes it's also hard to try to juggle studying and reserve duty, but the Technion is really, really okay with it, and it helps as much as it can. And here are the photos from my time in the Technion. So you can see here an article from the Jerusalem Post. This is from December. Me and 3 more students were in a competition in Europe, and we won the first place. So briefly what we did, or the competition is big industries in big food industries like PepsiCo raise different problems they have in their industry. And one of the problem by PepsiCo was their juices got spoiled by a specific bacteria. And even though the juices are pasteurized and the pH is very low, this bacteria can grow and spoil the juice. So we thought of using viruses. So although we're all afraid of viruses because of COVID, but viruses can be extremely efficient. And this specific virus is called a bacteriophage. So it knows how to target the specific bacteria and kill it. And we even found a specific virus. And for this, we also won the first place, and it was great. So I'll end my presentation by saying thank you. 1 second, I think you can see me. Oh no, what am I doing here? Stop share. Oh, okay. So I would like to say thank you. Thank you for your time. And thank you for all your help. On behalf of me and also Ilene, I think all your scholarships really, sometimes they can do the whole world for a student. So I really want to thank you. And of course, when COVID ends and you'll be at the Technion, I will be delighted to drink with you one of our beers. It will be very, very awesome. And that's me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gila and Alon, for sharing your stories. Really interesting and great to hear about. For us here in the States, it's inspiring to see the faces of the Technion, and you make us very proud that we're able to offer some small measure of support to you and your great work and the university's great work. Now I'm going to ask you some questions and put you on the spot. I also invite the members of our audience to use the chat function. And if you want to ask questions, direct them to me or the group in the chat, and I will relay those questions to our guests. But I'll start the ball rolling. Gila and Alon, and this is, why doesn't Gila take it first? So you had this drive to want to study science and chemistry. There are many great universities in Israel and all over the world. Why Technion?
So hi, as I said, first of all, I lived in Haifa most of my life. And the Technion is in Haifa, so I was quite familiar with the institute. My brother also learned in the Technion. So he actually didn't finish his schools in the Technion. So I knew that the Technion is very difficult, and I really honestly felt that this is the best place to get the best education for me. And I still think like this to this day. And also the commute was quite easy because I lived with my parents at the time in Haifa. Yes, that's basically it. This is the main reason.
Great, thank you. Alon?
So I truly believe that if you do something, do it your best. And for me, it wasn't even a question. Although I'm not from Haifa, I'm very far from Haifa. The Technion is known to be the best here in Israel. The best students, the best professors, the best doctors, the best facilities, and I didn't want less. So if I'll do it the best. So it wasn't a question for me.
Great, thank you. Gila, as we all know, women are somewhat underrepresented in STEM and the technology world and the sciences. We're trying to, hopefully the world is improving in that regard, and there's much work to be done. Talk a little bit about being a woman in the STEM world and the high-flying, challenging world of the Technion.
Well, I don't find it very challenging. I felt like in my life, a lot of people told me that I'm not supposed to be in STEM. I mean, they just told me that I'm not good at math. Basically, when I was 6 years old, when I was in the 6th grade, my math teacher told me that I'm not good at math. When I told her that I got into a private school and I had to do some tests to get in this school, and when I went to her and told her that I'm so excited that I got into this private school, then she told me, really, but you're not good at math. So I think that women are sometimes taught to be in this mold that they're not supposed to be in the lab or in technological subject and fields. But I think that it's a lot about, it doesn't have to do with gender, in my opinion. It's just about believing in yourself and disconnecting from negative people and focusing on positive people. And when I started in my undergraduate students, I saw a lot of women with me. And also in my master's and also in my PhD, I see a lot of women and I see a lot of female representation in the Technion. And it's very important to show women in technological fields, if it's in commercials or in posts in social media. Just to see a lot of female representation will help young women to feel like they can also do it. And that's it basically. And I feel, I mean, yesterday or 2 days ago, I went into the Facebook page of the Deans of Students, and I went through all of the posts, and in every post, in every picture, in every image, for every event, for the job fair event in the Technion, I saw women on the post, or equal number of men and women. So it's very important. I feel the Technion is doing a great job representing women in STEM subjects. And also the Technion, when it first started its doors, if you don't know, there were 70 students and one of them was a woman, which was very rare for that time. It was 1926, something like that.
Great. And by the way, I meant to say this about both of you. Your determination and resilience is really inspiring, and it's much like Israel. I mean, you're sort of microcosms of Israel. Question for Alon. You talked a little bit about wanting to work in startups. Talk about how entrepreneurship is kind of promoted and taught or encouraged both at the Technion, and what role Technion New York's campus might have in all that, if you wouldn't mind.
So I think that the Technion really puts it at its top priority. I know that there are different accelerator programs where people like me who have just an idea can sit down and have the guidance of the best from the industry and the Technion. And I know that in my field, there's a company that deals with cultured meat that started in a Technion accelerator and raised, I think, $30 million for the startup. And that's not rare in the Technion. And another thing, in my faculty, every master student he has a mandatory course that deals with this kind of I forgot the word. I'm sorry.
Interdisciplinary.
Yeah. So students really grow up in the Technion to think that way, to think, okay, now when you finish your studies, what are you going to do? Something practical. How are you going to help the world? Or how are you going to have your own startup? So I think that's something that is in the DNA of the Technion.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Hila, question for you now. Talk a little bit about the impact of the COVID pandemic and shutdowns and challenges on your studies and on the life at the Technion.
Okay, the pandemic is extremely challenging. First, we had to do a really rapid adapting to start studying online. I think it was a bit challenging at the beginning, but I think now it's working pretty good. So Israel had 3 quarantines so far, and in the first 2, the Technion was completely shut down. We were not allowed to be in campus. And as researchers, our goal is to be in the lab and physically be in the lab and do experiments. So if we're not there, we cannot progress in our research. So we were home a lot. The amazing thing is that during this time, our fellowship were untouched. We received our fellowship during this time, even though we were not on campus. So this was amazing. Because when we went back, we could just pick up from where we left off, and it's a bit difficult, I think, for me as a TA, because I know it's a very hard time for students, and I know how hard it is to be a student, and I'm a lab instructor. So in this hard time, I try really to relate to the students and help them as much as I can. I think the human factor plays a big role here. And that's it. I know that there are many researchers on COVID-19 developed in the Technion right now. And there is a new test right now. It's called Naor. It's been developed in the Technion. It's a very rapid test. You get results from after 2 hours, I think. And it's based on saliva, so it's not invasive where you poke, Q-tips in your nose. And the whole purpose of this is to make life possible to live with the coronavirus, especially on campus, to make a safe campus and an open campus. This is the whole purpose of this research that they've done. To be able to do rapid tests, quick tests, easy tests, and you get results fast, and you can do the test at home. And by the time you get in the Technion, you already have your results. And that's it, I think, basically.
Thank you. Alon, now one for you, and it's not an easy one, but I'm really interested to hear this. So you're juggling parenting 3 children, your studies, military service. Talk a little bit about work-life balance and how you get it all done, and the challenges and the workarounds and the workings that you manage to navigate those challenging waters.
I think everything, you have to have your priorities right. So for me, it means that I sleep less, but I won't take the time from my children. I'll always be there for them at the afternoon or in the morning, and my studies won't. My studies will always be a top priority. So I don't know how I do it, but I do juggle everything around, but and I sleep less. That's my only advice. I don't know.
This is a question for both of you. What more could the Technion do to make the sort of work-life challenges better? Like, how could we be more supportive?
Alon, do you want to take this?
Specifically, the work-life balance, or generally?
Generally, I mean, what can ATS and the Technion do to better support you? I mean, I think we're doing a good job, and that we recognize that you're saying that. So, of course, there's always room for improvement, except for the very perfect, which is only my dog that I know of. So, like, if you could have one wish to make your life or studies easier, better, stronger, what would it be?
So, in my opinion, and I'm talking about my laboratory and the laboratories next to me, the technology, there's always new technologies. And what we have today is sometimes old, and you need new technologies, and you need new equipment. And in order for the Technion and its students to be in the same line with other universities around the world, we need the best equipment, the best technologies. And that will make me a lot better student, because I don't need to run to different faculties or to find this equipment and find that it's like 30 years old and I don't know if it works or not, if I'll have it here in my faculty. So sometimes these equipment cost a lot, but they can really improve, they can really advance my research, not only mine, but other students.
Great, thank you. That's really helpful and interesting. Hila, you're up.
Yeah, I would actually say the same. The purpose is to be the top gear of research, the best research technological institute, and this is a race. So yeah, I would say I see in the Technion so many renovations going on, new faculties, new labs. There's going to be new cable car going from the Haifa Bay to the Technion to the University of Haifa. So many new facilities, technological new facilities are being built in the Technion to make our lives so much convenient to study at. So I feel like what Alon said is really the missing thing. Just really to invest in technology, the best technologies that we can be exposed to and work with. Yes.
There's been many questions, and thank you to everybody. We only have time for one more question because this is lunch hour for many and people probably have to get back to work and it's probably getting late in Israel. What are your thoughts in terms of goals, in terms of continuing work in academia and becoming professors, or working in industry at startups or whatever? And this sort of, I realize that, are they two different paths? Are they paths you can do at the same time? If each of you in 30 seconds could give a quick answer to that, I'd appreciate it. And I know the person who thought of that good question would appreciate it as well.
Okay, so I'll answer it quickly. My dream is to stay in academia. I want to be a professor. I want to have a lab and students and to do meaningful research. And I think the academia is the best place to do really pure, good research without a lot of limitations. So yeah, I want to stay in academia.
Alon?
So in contrast, I love the industry. I love fixing or finding solutions for problems and thinking outside the box. Not that I'm saying that the academia does not think about outside the box, but sometimes in the industry, things are so fast, so exciting, and that's what I'm looking for.
Great. Well, that's all the time we have. I would say that we're delighted you joined us by Zoom. we hope the world is an improved place and we can get together again in Israel. And then people who have questions that they didn't get to ask today will get a chance to ask you in person. I want to thank everyone for joining us for this terrific program. I want to thank my co-host, Ruth, for helping out. I know she wants to say goodbye, or so maybe she'll either wave or say goodbye.
I'll say goodbye in person. Thank you so much. And I think we all hope to see you on campus very, very soon, hopefully at the next BOG.
And I also just want to, before we part, acknowledge once again the generous support of Ilene and Steve Berger for sponsoring the Berger Visiting Fellows, and to all of you for your leadership and passion and interest. Please visit ats.org for information on future programs. Everybody stay safe, good health, and truly, hopefully next year in Israel. And I wish all of you in the meantime a very, very good day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Hila and Alon.
Bye-bye.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
Yitzchak.